Welcome to the Battlefield Show. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I'm joined by Sammy Boy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Doing fantastic. As we were talking about right before we recorded, we are just right on the money for our recording schedule and hitting the best news possible.
We're pretty much 4 from 4 the last month. I swear there's been some sort of news or some sort of update on the days that we record, and it's like
hours
this one
before.
was this was like less than 8 hours ago, and which is like, for me, that's at like 1 a.m. So it's pretty much I wake up and there's news, and it's like, boom. Perfect, let me read this and then we'll start recording.
It's a great way to kick off coffee every Thursday.
Yeah.
Or Friday for you, I should say.
Yeah.
But yeah, today we're talking about the announcement that they came today to quote all in on Battlefield, Ridgeline developing next campaign. So we're going to talk about that today in this episode. So let's jump right in. Whew, we've got a new Battlefield company here, Ridgeline Games. Not the biggest fan of their logo, but.
Yeah.
I mean, just two triangles.
I don't mind the name though. Actually,
I love the name.
I like the name. Yeah, the logo. When I saw that though, it's not bad, but it's very it's just two triangles. So
I wish I was the designer that got paid $50K to come up with that.
Yeah.
So we've got a new entry into the Battlefield franchise in terms of developers. I think this is interesting too. So, what the heck are we talking about? If you don't know, EA, DICE, all of the people came together to say, hey, 20 years ago, Battlefield came out, 1942. Let's announce something big to kind of to go alongside this massive 20-year anniversary. And Ridgeline Games and Ripple Effect are coming together to work on the next campaign. I think it's interesting to call it a campaign, and there was a lot of confusion on this because the way they worded the tweet was so bad, because it seemed like, oh, hey, Battlefield 2042 is getting a campaign, and Ridgeline Games and Ripple Effect are working on it.
Yeah. They
actually had to clarify in a separate tweet, just for clarification, this is a new game, which that's how you know someone messed up. It was like, man, this is the perfect tweet, and they're like, crap.
Yeah, well,
people
the
are
fact
thinking
that
it's coming
says
Battlefield
in the tweet, we're continuing to support Battlefield 2042. It like makes it seem like this is to do with 2042, and it really isn't.
Yeah.
Like it's actually kind of got nothing to do with it. So the fact that they said that, that was also confusing too. And I guess we'll touch on that a bit later on, but just mentioning that at all was kind of weird. So yeah, it was a very oddly worded tweet.
Yeah, the tweet itself is, we're all in on the future of Battlefield. We're continuing to support Battlefield 2042 and welcome our new studio, Ridgeline Games, who will be focusing on a narrative campaign. Just to remove, we're continuing to support Battlefield 2042. Because the whole thing about this article is not that. It's about the new studio and the new campaign.
Yeah, I wonder if they did that to like... Because I think maybe if they didn't, now that I'm looking at it, if they didn't say that, maybe people would be like, oh, they're canceling 2042 for the next game or something.
See that now, yeah.
Maybe that's why, but yeah, they could have worded that much better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something could have done a lot better there in terms of making this clearer for everyone involved.
Yeah,
but it's pretty sweet. They talk a little bit about the history of Battlefield, and then they go into a little bit about Battlefield 2042. Your feedback has been instrumental. The team has been hard at work and has made strides in pushing Battlefield 2042 closer to our ambitions. With the launch of Season 2, we're proud of the work we've done on the game and are committed to continuing to support it, blah, 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 blah. We'll keep listening to your thoughts, and we'll use those to continue to evolve Battlefield 2042 as well as to act as learnings for our new experiences. That's a terrible sentence. So they have, quote, new experiences that are in pre-production, which is interesting. I saw a lot of kind of discussion in the community of like, oh, hey, I knew that the entirety of DICE wasn't working on Battlefield 2042. But I think it seems like they have all of those studios working on a Battlefield, and maybe that's what the statement's around.
Yeah, it's actually hard to tell, isn't it? Because they mentioned throughout this that, they mention a few of the studios and what they're doing. DICE isn't actually even really mentioned in this.
There's one phrase, and they're name dropped a few times. DICE is a multiplayer powerhouse and will use its expertise to continue developing Battlefield's one-of-a-kind multiplayer suite, while Ripple Effect is focusing on creating an entirely new Battlefield experience that will complement and build upon the series' foundations. Is that
so it's like
Portal?
Well,
or something new?
I think they're making the next Battlefield. I really do.
Oh ho ho! I think they have more qualifications.
And we've said this. I think that's both of our dreams. I want Ripple Effect to make the next one, and I would love for DICE to be involved. I'm not anti-DICE, but they've proven that they just can't really handle it by themselves. And everything that Ripple Effect or previously DICE LA have done. The funny part is all the games that launch poorly, DICE are the ones who make it, and then DICE LA were always the one who came in and did the live service, which is the part that's good.
Such a good point. Yeah.
So I think they are definitely better at making Battlefield than DICE Stockholm. And yeah, I hope I could be looking way too much into this, but it mentions that the new Ridgeline Studios, they're working on the narrative, and then Ripple Effect is focused on creating an entirely new Battlefield experience. So I hope that means that Battlefield, I guess it would be Battlefield 6, because this one technically wasn't. Battlefield 6 is made partly by Ripple Effects making multiplayer and Ridgeline making the campaign. That's what I hope. And obviously have DICE there,
as more of the just secondary.
Yeah. Have them there doing essentially what Ripple Effect did for this game. Have them as the sideshow.
Once you were the learner, now I am the master.
Yeah. Because which is weird because DICE Stockholm is way bigger. So that's the other thing. I don't know if Ripple Effect has the staff to do that. I'm not really sure, but yeah, that's what I hope. That's the way that I hope it goes, is that Ripple Effect makes the next Battlefield. They're the ones that make the multiplayer of that game, and Ridgeline, I already, just from Marcus Leto, I just already trust them to make a solid campaign. So
I mean, he has just been going on a whirlwind on Twitter, just literally straight up asking, what do you like about Battlefield?
Yeah.
What do you like about this? When you think of Battlefield maps, what do you think of this? When you think of big destruction, what do you think? He is literally out there doing something that DICE would never allow someone to do.
Yeah, it's been really good. I actually have, it's almost every 3 days for the last couple of weeks. It's just a tweet that's a really good question. What do you like about vehicles? What do you like about destruction? All those kinds of things. It's not just, do you like it? It's actually asking why, so they can get to the crux of that, and then hopefully implement that, not just because they can, but because they know why people like it. So I've really enjoyed it. He's one of the few devs that I've followed on Twitter that I actually love when I see a tweet from Marcus. I just go, yes, what's this going to be? He's doing a great job so far, and I know that he hasn't touched Battlefield yet, so we can't really judge him for that, but everything that he's done for Halo, Halo's, I would argue Halo's the most, I don't know, not most popular shooter, but for me it's when I think of old school shooter, Halo's the one that comes to mind, even over Call of Duty and stuff. So
yeah, I mean,
he essentially created it, and if he can do that, I'm pretty sure he can do it again.
Yeah, and he's continued to work in the industry in a variety of different ways, and has worked with, I think, oh no, it's not. It's this Byron Bede that has worked with Vince Zampella before, and I think from what all of this is saying, all of the reports that we've been seeing, Marcus Leto, Vince Zampella, and Rebecca Kutaz or even Christian Grass too. This is a new name I haven't heard of before. Christian Grass at Ripple Effect
Christian's the
Studios.
one who introduced the Portal stuff when the game was getting like marketing. He's the bald guy who, you would have seen him. He speaks really well. He's like another guy that I have a lot of trust in. He seems, obviously we haven't seen that much.
I mean, just from what he's delivered, I have all of the trust in the world.
Exactly.
Going back to that through line of, hey, maybe Ripple Effect is... I think Ripple Effect is more qualified than DICE at doing Battlefield now, because they literally gave what Battlefield fans wanted. First of all, they honored the past while pushing it forward. They had such an honor of what was done before and bringing that into a new age. I think they have such a strong grasp on what Battlefield is. And I think that they have earned the right to push forward Battlefield in the next game and guide DICE along. And like you said, DICE hasn't been a good studio in a long while, because all of the good that DICE has made was DICE LA that was putting in the real work and effort for.
Yeah. The other thing that I have just thought about too is that we've heard a lot about a lot of people leaving DICE because obviously it's an old studio, and if you work somewhere for 15, 20 years, you're going to want to go do something else. So a lot of people have moved on, and that's where I think a lot of those people were kind of like to thank for Battlefield 3 and 4 in that like prime era of Battlefield, and then they've obviously moved on. Whereas from what I've heard with Ripple Effect, it's not quite the same. I'm sure people have left, and I'm sure there's a lot of new people there too, but the ones that, like, when this game was being marketed and I had the sort of privilege to get the early access and talk to devs and stuff, they were all a bit like, they were more experienced from what I could tell. They weren't young devs. The guys that were doing the presentations, like Christian Grass, and there was a few others in there that were, they were like 45, 50 years old, and they had clearly been around long enough to know, how this all works. So that's the other thing, is that I think they are now the more experienced studio because they haven't lost as many people as DICE have. So yeah, I like we said, I think they are way more qualified at this point to make the next one. And if they can be leading it and still involve DICE and make DICE almost like let them do the grunt work. Like tell them, this is what we're doing. We're gonna, because obviously they can work remotely. So we need you in Sweden to be working on this, this, and this. But like we're in charge of it. I think that could work. Because they obviously need, the thing with Ripple Effect, they're just not big enough. I think they only have 150 odd people working there. So I think
that's why they're so effective.
DICE has like 700, 800 or something. So I think they need a lot of people. But I do think that's why Ripple Effect, like you just said, that is probably why they've done better, because it's a bit more effective when you're not trying to control 800 people to do the same thing. And I think that actually works out for the best. So I really hope that they are actually in charge of it.
I think the reason that we're seeing this super strong focus is because they have, like you said, that small team, and they're able to focus so tightly around what Battlefield is, instead of being like, oh, hey, this person that has a lot of power in the organization but does not have any experience wants this thing, and if you don't put that thing in, then you're going to get ostracized in the company. Well, they don't have that problem because everyone is so focused and they're so understanding of what goes on in their studio, I would imagine, just because that's usually what happens in smaller scale spaces. Like, you're aware of a lot more that's happening, and you have to take a lot more wear different hats usually at that scale. So they do have that experience of, say, hey, this person that usually their title may be this thing, but they also know what's going on here, here, and here, instead of like DICE is at the scale where this person literally only works on this thing, and this person literally only works on this thing, and they go and report this person, and then that person reports to this person.
Is it like it can lead to a lot of miscommunication because there's so many people involved that the whole saying of too many chefs in the kitchen, like, that's just exactly what can happen when you got too many people in positions and you're all trying to communicate about this, that, whatever. it can lead to just miscommunication, and that's where things start to go wrong, is when people aren't on the same page. And like you said, with a smaller team, like, there's just less things to go wrong. That's just as simple as it is. There's less ways to miscommunicate because it's a smaller studio. There's less people you have to try and deliver all the news to and all that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think that's definitely in their favor.
It's exciting, man. It's really exciting to see what we heard close to a year ago around, oh man, we're dedicated to supporting Battlefield for years to come. It's a huge part of EA. And I think we're finally seeing some of that. It's going to be a while before we see these initiatives take place. But I think it's going to be interesting to see from like a Battlefield 2042 aspect. What does Portal look like when when Ripple Effect is focusing on this other thing? What does DICE do with that amount of people? Do they start kind of moving people around? Is someone at DICE going to get moved over to somewhere at Ripple Effect? Like, what does that look like? There's a massive amount of developers and teams working on Battlefield now. And I think it's going to be very fascinating to see how you keep everything Battlefield, but each of these different developers get to add their own little feel and vibe and expertise into it.
Yeah, and that goes back to the thing that we've talked about that I would love to see, and that's kind of what I hope is happening here, is that they alternate studios. I will keep saying it until it happens. I just want, for example, what's happening here, if this is what is happening with Ripple Effect making the next one, that then means if that's happening, they can take the time to get that game right, and it will probably, I guess, launch in like 3 years. I don't think it's not coming out next year, you know what I mean? So they can take the time to get that game right. In the meantime, if DICE doesn't have to be developing the next game, they can stick with 2042. And again, this is very naive. I'm not assuming this is going to happen because I'm pretty sure Season 4 is going to be the end of the game. But
yeah,
they should just stick with it and just keep making it better and get the trust back and make this into a game that in 2-3 years from now we go, damn, that launched so poorly, but wow, what a game that was. Just like Battlefield 4. The exact same thing. That game launched so bad, and then now it's heralded as the best Battlefield ever. So, and this game does, I don't care what anyone says, this game does have potential to be the best ever. It's got the perfect setting. There's so many elements to this game. Maybe the specialists and stuff like that get in the way a little bit, but the actual gameplay and I think specifically the setting, just because it's not linked to, like, it doesn't have to be realistic to World War II, for example. They can do whatever they want. It has potential to be as good as any of the others. I don't care what anyone says. And if they just stick with it and give that time for Ripple Effect to make the next game, they're really not losing out anywhere, because they're still going to make money from this game. Then the next game comes out, it's in a better shape because they've not rushed it. Then that game's going to do better, not only because it's not rushed, but people have earned their trust back through this game. And then when that game comes out, DICE can then move on to the next one, and they don't also have to rush the next one because Ripple Effect is in charge of the current game. So I don't know, maybe I'm just naive, but I don't see any downside to that. I don't see how that could possibly go wrong. Obviously, it's not guaranteeing that the games would be perfect, but I think it would absolutely be better than the way that they're doing it. So that's what I hope happens. And like you said about them each having their own little touch, I think that's a good thing. I think that with Call of Duty, you kind of know between Treyarch and Infinity Ward, they're a little bit different. And so it's Call of Duty every year, but it's like this year, Modern Warfare 2 is coming out. We know the Infinity Ward type of Call of Duty. And then the next one will probably be another Black Ops, and we know the Treyarch way. And I think that's a good thing, because everyone's going to have their own little favourites. And it also just gives them, gives those studios the time to actually work on it. So yeah, I definitely think that's the way to go. Whether they do it, I don't know. I'm not too sure they will, but I definitely hope they do.
This is the phrasing that they have in the announcement blog article thing that they posted. DICE is a multiplayer powerhouse and will use its expertise to continue developing Battlefield's one-of-a-kind multiplayer suite, while Ripple Effect is focused on creating an entirely new Battlefield experience that will complement and build upon the series' foundation. Very fascinating there. Do you think there's a possibility that Ripple Effect is also working on something that is single player in focus, or do you think it may be the next version of what they introduced in Portal?
This
or
might
Battlefield
be
3
a
remake?
tinfoil hat theory. I think there's a chance they could potentially do something like a Battle Royale as a standalone. Because I don't see Ripple Effect doing single player stuff. They could. I don't see any reason they couldn't. But they just, they've done really well with multiplayer, and because it says an entirely new Battlefield experience, I can't tell whether that means just literally a new game, as in not 2042, or if it means what it sounds like, an entirely new Battlefield experience, which could be some sort of Battle Royale. It could be, I don't know, it could be any different take on a typical shooter. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure what to take out of that, but yeah, I think because of the new studio, that's the thing that it makes me think they won't do single player, just because I feel like that's what the Seattle studio is set up for.
Mm-hmm.
But in saying that, there are studios out there who are essentially like a very small scale studios, and they don't actually develop. They just like write the narrative and they do all the concept art and design the characters, but they don't actually develop the game. So maybe that's what Marcus's studio is doing. Like maybe they're not even actually developing the game. So I don't know. It's all very vague, isn't it? Like it's an announcement that we essentially learned absolutely nothing. Like we don't know what they're actually doing here. So it's hard to gather what's going on, but it is fun to speculate, I'll tell you that much.
Mm-hmm. The next thing I think is very interesting, and I think there's a lot of directions one can go with this news. Lars Gustafsson?
Yeah, Gustafsson, I think it is.
He was the creative director for the Battlefield franchise and has been affectionately known as Mr. Battlefield for years. And he is stepping down from DICE, from Battlefield. I think there's a lot of different discussions that could be had here. What I posted on Twitter was the last few Battlefield games. And I'll probably even include, as much as I love Battlefield 1, it was it was very weird for the franchise. It worked, but I also think that's the reason why Battlefield has suffered so much, is because of Battlefield 1's success. They're like, oh, hey, we could do something different, and it's going to work out every time. And everyone after that has not worked out. As much as I love the game, I think that's where it started to go wrong. Basically, Battlefield 1 onward has suffered from his creative direction, but I don't necessarily think it is entirely his fault. So I think that's where at least I stand on it. I'm very happy that he's gone. I hate to say that, but I'm happy he's gone.
The weird thing is, I don't know how much of a role he's actually had, because he wasn't with 2042. He was barely mentioned in the. Mm-hmm. He was always the guy that, like, when the games were announced, I remember with Battlefield 5, he was like, he announced it when they did like their little live stream sort of thing. With 2042, he actually had nothing to do with that. So I actually don't know how much of a role he's had in 2042. It's kind of weird. He definitely had a role in the previous ones. But yeah, it's one of those situations where it's like, you don't want those people leaving, because he's one of the people who, I would argue he knows Battlefield more than any human being. Yeah. But at the same time, ideas do get stale. Like I said, when you've been in the same job for 20 years, you do sometimes need a fresh face in there, like a Vince, like a Marcus, to take what you have created. Almost the same way we're Star Wars fans, almost the same way as George Lucas. Like, if he had done the sequels, they probably would have sucked also. So you do sometimes need someone to I think there's a time to step down, and like you said, it's sad to see him go because he's literally called Mr. Battlefield. Like, he's one of the most pivotal people to the franchise, but I'm not, like, devastated. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter that are like, oh my God, this means the end of Battlefield. I don't think that's the case at all.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a needed change, and it's sad, but it has to happen eventually.
Even with his leadership over the past few years, we've had several misses, and it's been a while since Battlefield has been really regarded as like, oh, hey, this is a top-tier shooter franchise. It's been very well known, but that was, I think a lot of it's from Battlefield 3 and 4 of just the innovations that they had there. They've really been resting on those laurels of saying, yeah, we did Battlefield 3 and 4, and those were great games.
Yeah.
Battlefield's great.
I honestly think if Battlefield, as good as Battlefield 1 was, if that was their first game, I don't think Battlefield would have survived. It would have been potentially like a Titanfall situation where it's a decent game and just didn't do well.
Yeah.
I think they are still living off the Battlefield 3 and 4 days, which is weird because that was like 10 years ago, but
yeah,
I definitely agree with that.
So it's fascinating to see these varying studios get introduced to the Battlefield franchise. It's very interesting to see as time has gone on, these key players of the Battlefield franchise leave. And I think this is a turning point for the Battlefield franchise of this is either incredible, groundbreaking news, or this is going to be the worst decision that they made. But I'm leaning towards this is a good thing. Lars has definitely, he's served his time in the Battlefield franchise. He's done great things and has been a part of a lot of it. But I think with these more American studio leaders coming into the game space with DICE is a good thing, because I think it's interesting to see these variety of different Swedish companies being like, oh, hey, game development is moving. What are we going to do? While all of the other ones, I think a lot of the different studios have started to adapt and overcome, and just now it's hitting like DICE Sweden being like, the industry's moving, guys. We can't make games people like anymore. What's going on?
Yeah, it could be like potentially like a cultural thing where, you know, a lot of European. Obviously, I'm not from Europe, so this could be if this is wrong, please let us know in the comments or whatever. But a lot of places in Europe do seem a lot more traditional in certain ways, whereas in America, it seems like Americans are always just like moving on to the next thing. You know what I mean?
For better and for worse.
yeah, exactly. And so with the gaming industry moving so quickly, I do think that is probably a good thing, because you can't just, we've found that out, you can't just like make games that were good in 2010 anymore. That just doesn't, that's not how it goes. It's not like making movies where if you make a movie that was good in 1950, it could still be good. It's not really like that with gaming. You can't make those. Well, I mean, you can, there's every now and then you can, I don't know, look at like a Minecraft type of game, that will always be good. But
even that's like developing and changing in different new ways.
Yeah, even that started very bare bones, and now it's like it's so big. There's so many things in the game. So yeah, even that's a good example of things are moving, and you kind of have to keep up, or else this is what happens with like Battlefield 5 and even the live service Battlefield 1. They still had premium, all those kinds of things. They're definitely still lagging behind a little bit, I guess. So that's the thing that I think Vince and Marcus probably aren't going to do, because if anything, Vince has been the one who like has shown he keeps moving. He was working on the old Call of Duties. Now he's on Apex. He's done single player games. He's done all these things that no matter what era he does it in, it does well. So he's kind of like conquered multiple different eras of gaming. So
yeah,
I definitely think it's a good thing in that regard. And yeah, it could just be to do with the way that Americans are sort of hardwired, where it's, you know, that's how it is in America. You got to be on the ball and constantly moving, or else you'll lag behind.
Yeah, even if it's not like a physical, cultural thing of like their position in the world, I definitely think it's something to do with the DICE culture inherently. The last few games have been like, okay, this worked, but it's starting to get a little stale how you're doing this. Oh, hey, this is definitely not how games are made anymore. And then they released Battlefield 2042, and it's like, yeah, this is definitely not how games are made anymore. So I think it's fascinating to see these different flavors and something like a ripple effect where they have this experience as DICE LA. They saved most of the failures of DICE, and then they came back, they rebranded, and now they're doing it again, but in a completely different way with Battlefield Portal. And then you have All Out Warfare, that's like, okay, yeah. And then you also see DICE specifically like, oh, hey, yeah, we don't have a server browser, but Portal works for that, right? So, like, even again, like, DICE is like, oh, hey, go over there.
Yeah, it's shoveling their problems over to Ripple Effect to deal with.
Those guys have the patience of a saint.
Yeah.
Super exciting to see what this ultimately comes to. I think it's interesting they even put Industrial Toys, which is the development studio that's making the mobile game, which we haven't seen a whole or heard of a whole lot from that in a while. So it'll be interesting to see how that ties into the broader focus of what Battlefield is. Again, another one of those things where it's like, what does Battlefield look like in a mobile game? What does it look like to do this? What does it look like to do that? Like, I it's fascinating to me to just see what these studios are going to be bringing to Battlefield and how it's going to move forward into this modern era.
Yeah, 100%. It feels like it's in a bit of a like transitional period, doesn't it? Like it's we don't really know what Battlefield is currently because it's the last few have just been a bit all over the place. We know what the old the core Battlefield experience is, but we also don't know if they just sort of remade Battlefield 3, for example, and that was like a new game, maybe that wouldn't be as good as we want it to be, because I've heard a lot of people say, oh, just remake Battlefield 4, and I think that would be awesome, but maybe you'd be like, oh, this is not a current shooter, this is old now. So
they'd have to do kind of like a remake remaster type of thing where they did it with like what was it, Crash Bandicoot, where it's a remake of the game, but they've updated all the mechanics and the visuals of it. Like, you could not release Battlefield 3 with the same mechanics and the same gameplay, because it just...
Yeah, exactly.
Love the game, but it just doesn't hold up to the quality of multiplayer gameplay anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's we're in a weird period where it's, I think they are also, it's not just us, they're trying to figure out like what this game is, and obviously with new people at the helm now, that's probably a good thing, because although that can go badly if they don't know Battlefield, then they can just turn it, it could just end up being Call of Duty, you know what I mean? They can just turn it into something it's not. But I think the people they have on board, they not only know enough about Battlefield, because, for example, someone like Vince, back in the day when Call of Duty and Battlefield were like at their peak competitiveness against each other, he was competing against Battlefield, so he would definitely know a lot about Battlefield.
That's true.
He would know what it's done well, because they at Call of Duty they would have been trying to go, okay, here's what they're doing really well. Let's focus on our own strengths. So they would have studied Battlefield, and he would know
that
how
is
the core
such
of that game works.
A great point.
And even Marcus would be the same. I guess they're all competing. So I guess Halo would have done the same.
That's what I'm really excited about, is seeing how these different flavors of gameplay background and development background come into play. Because like you said, you've got Vince, who has some Call of Duty experience. He has some Titanfall experience. He has some Apex Legends experience. You have Marcus Leto, who's got just the groundbreaking. While like not everyone has played Halo, most people have a memory around it, or at least an understanding of how it changed gameplay and just mechanics and multiplayer shooters in a way that no other franchise really has. And I think that's going to be cool to see.
Shaped the shooter genre really back then. Like the first few Halos, they were, man, Halo 2 and 3, that was like peak gaming for me. That was like the knocking off from school and coming home and playing Halo. That was the best time ever. So yeah, I think a lot, because it is an exclusive, a lot of people haven't played that, but I do think people, even like the PlayStation players who haven't played it, I think they do know important that game is. And yeah, he, like I said, if he's done it with that game, I don't see why he can't take the positives from Halo and the positives from Battlefield and put them all into one. It's obviously easier said than done, but at least from an idea standpoint, I think, yeah, he's a great person to have at the helm.
Yeah, truly. It's just super fun to see what is going to happen. How does this affect what we are experiencing with Battlefield 2042 even? Like, what does that look like as we have all these different gameplay or game developers working in the Battlefield sandbox? What are they looking? What are they going to do? What is DICE going to do? How does what Ridgeline and Ripple Effect are doing over here affect what DICE is doing over here? What does it look like for that cross-pollination? Hopefully they're all talking together, because I think that's what's either going to make or break what Battlefield becomes, is how these development studios are working together to share assets, to share ideas, and share that vision of what Battlefield is.
Yeah, 100%. There can end up being like a disconnect there if they don't all stay on the same page where, yeah, if they're doing separate things, if, like we said, if Ripple Effect makes the next game and then DICE does the one after that, like, they could be completely different games, and maybe Ripple Effect makes one that's really good and then DICE does what they've always done and just stick to their own guns, and we don't want that anymore, you know what I mean? So they do have to stay on the same page, and it doesn't mean they have to just follow orders. They can still do their own thing, but just keep it close enough to what everyone else is doing so that it does feel connected. Because that's the thing with Call of Duty, is they're all very different, but they all tie into Warzone. They all it feels like the same universe, and that's really just what they have to do with Battlefield. If they're going to turn it into the Battlefield universe like they're calling it, then you can't have a universe that's not really connected.
Yeah.
We've seen that with Star Wars, and that did not end well at all.
Yeah. we saw how that goes. We are still seeing how that's going.
Yep.
Sadly.
Day-to-day effort.
Every time I see a new Star Wars game get announced, it's like, okay, when is this one going to get canceled or delayed?
Yeah.
Take a drink every time that a Star Wars game is delayed, and you won't be alive very long.
Yep.
Yeah. What are some of the things that with this announcement, where do you see Battlefield going? Like, what's the, like, I'll put it this way, what's the reality that you expect, and where do you hope it to be?
Oh, I think there's two very different answers for that. For what I hope, I'll start with that. I want it to go back to its core. I just want like a Bad Company 3. Just give us a really true Battlefield game. There's all the time in the world for innovation in the future. You can do, I don't care what they do in the future. Give us some wacky Battlefield games. I don't care. But we've had two in a row and I've enjoyed both. I don't want to sound like all sooky. I'm really enjoying 2042 right now, but it doesn't feel like a core Battlefield game. It just feels like a spin-off, essentially. And I just want like a game that I load it up and I'm like, yes, I'm playing Battlefield. That's what I want for the next one. So I'll stick to my guns. I just want Bad Company 3. I just think that would be so perfect. It's been wanted for so long. It's been, what did that come out? 2011, 2010? So it's been 12 years. By the time the game comes out, like the next game, it'll probably be like 14, 15 years. I just think that would be the perfect game. And that's what I hope. As for reality, I'm not really sure. It's all become so like disjointed that I don't, like we've said, I don't know what Battlefield is. I don't know what they're thinking. I'm not sure if they are thinking, let's take it back to its core, or if they're thinking we've got some really smart heads at the top of this whole universe. Let's continue to change it and push the boundaries or something. So I'm not really sure. It feels like 2042 will be the foundation in terms of like the universe. I do think that it'll be based on that same sort of storyline maybe, or I don't know. I think they kind of have to use that because in a way, it's not like Battlefield games aren't actually that separate from each other. Because like, for example, Irish was in Battlefield 4 and now is in 2042. So it is all actually a pretty solid storyline from 10 years ago to now. So I think they kind of have to stick with that. So whether we get one that's, is literally just Battlefield 2043, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
well, isn't that when the new game, like
I'm not
season
sure.
2 takes place in 2043, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think Lossie mentioned something that the judging by the law, this is actually like a year after 2042. So Stranded is technically 2043. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think about like the reality? I want to hear your hopes as well, but what do you think about the reality of the next game? Because I actually don't know how to answer that, to be honest.
I think the reality is we're going to see. I think we may jump like 10 years at the most on whatever Battlefield 2042 is. I think this is the time frame that we're going to see Battlefield take for a little while. It gives them enough freedom to where they can add whichever weapons they want to of pretty much any era. They can go semi-futuristic, but not too much. They can go a little bit behind the times and not really everyone freak out. I think we're away from the point in Battlefield where we are going to see these. We're not going to see a Battlefield 5. We're not going to see a Battlefield 1 anymore. I don't think we're going to see these time-related stuff. I could maybe see at the earliest 1980s something like kind of like Call of Duty did, but I think they've landed on where they want to go, and I think that's what we're going to get again. I think in terms of the reality of what we're going to see in the next game, I would love to see Ripple Effect more involved, but I think we're going to see DICE again with whatever it is. Maybe Ripple Effect takes more of a space to it, but I think we're still going to see DICE as the Battlefield multiplayer people. I think that's what's going to happen. And then I think we're going to see these other development studios fill in the blanks. I think we're going to see more focus on whatever the next game is, but I don't think we're going to see quite the level of cohesion that we want to. On the other hand, of kind of what I want to see is I'm fine with the era. I think the era is fine. It gives them a lot of flexibility. It gives them a lot of stuff that they can do. So I'm fine with that. I don't have anyone's like, oh, I want them to go to 2022, or I want them to go to 2122, or I want them to go to 1922. Like I don't have any wants of like going back in time or forward in time at this point of what Battlefield is. I think Call of Duty has the scale and the grandeur of what they can do with that. They can go to all these different eras with Warzone, with all the mainline series, because they have one every 2 years or one every year, or like whatever the new cadence of games is. They have a lot more than what Battlefield is going to offer. So I think that's where the freedom is on their side of things. I think we're going to see more of that experimentation on the Call of Duty side, and then Battlefield is going to be this big platform. What I would love to see is Ripple Effect take over. We get to see a more focused Battlefield game. We get to see more of the smaller scale, close quarters combat maps. Like vehicles are more of an asset instead of the focus, which is what this game seems like. And I would love to see more of the interweaving of the story, because I think that's what Battlefield 2042 is lacking so badly right now. Is with they started strong. They're like, oh hey, this is a character story. This is what Irish is like now. This is a really cool, gritty short film that is what everyone wants a map to be like is in this short film, but it's never going to be in the game. I would love to see more of like what Apex is doing, where there's a focus on, hey, we have specialists, instead of being like, yeah, specialists are there, they suck, they implemented them so you can have some faces, but I don't care about any of them. I want to be caring for the universe that they're in, the characters that they're using, and if they do introduce a new one, it's not going to be like, oh yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, that's a good point. And with Apex, they do it really well, where each season there's a new one added, and they have a full trailer that's like, it's not just like a...
They have a story trailer. It's not like a gameplay trailer with story in it. This is a story trailer.
It's essentially a short film. It's not that much different than the Exodus thing, but every season. And that's awesome. I want that so bad, because if they're not going to tell the story in this game through a campaign, that's how they should have done it with this game. Because when, say for example, with the trailer for this season, we see Crawford. I don't learn a single thing about Crawford. He's just an English guy.
Yeah. You have to go 4 pages deep on their website to find out anything about this character in like a PDF style page where it's like 3,000 words.
Yeah. And even like Call of Duty, they do it really well, where in the new Warzone seasons, they like will introduce this new villain that's who the new character is, which is, even the fact that they can do that in Warzone is mad, because those characters don't even have abilities. They're just skins. So it's like, I don't know how they can't do that with this game, and introduce like each season. It doesn't have to be a villain, but have the story evolving. So we've just got Crawford. They could have introduced him as this guy. The season's called Master of Arms. Make it that this guy is this, like, he is the Master of Arms, and he's bringing like heaps of reinforcements to the good side of this story, where they've found a whole new like cache of weapons, and they've all got upgraded weapons or something. And then the next season is the character is a villain type character, and he's brought along this thing that's going to blow up the next map, or have some sort of storyline with it, rather than just this guy is English and this is his ability. Like, that's essentially all we know. So yeah, that's something that I would love to see too. I guess with the campaign, it isn't as important, but even still, when you're introducing new characters, I guess unless they did like war stories on them, you kind of do have to have that sort of trailer thing, because you can't just update your campaign unless, like I said, it is war stories. So yeah, it's a weird thing to speculate on, because like we've said, we don't really know what's going on here. So I'm excited, but I'm also very confused. I don't know what the next Battlefield game is going to be, and that's both exciting and very nerve-wracking, I think.
Yeah, I think it's such an exciting and terrifying time to be a Battlefield fan right now.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? Am I going to love it? Am I going to hate it? Who knows? They don't even know.
I think you're spot on, though, with the setting. And that's what I was getting at earlier too, is that I think this is the perfect setting for Battlefield. I really do. I think I think Battlefield's at its best when it is set in the modern day. I think Battlefield 1 was amazing. I think Battlefield 5, by the end, it was a good game, but I don't think those historical settings, I think they can work, but I just think the freedom that you get with modern day, where you've got choppers and you can have more like, you look at like the gadgets, not that Pake's scanner, for example, is a good thing because it's a wall hack, but like it's cool to have something in the game that you can like,
I love how
futuristic.
Yeah. I love how angry everyone gets around it too.
And so, yeah, I think this era, and even more so than Battlefield 4, I thought that was like perfect, but now I think this is the perfect era for this game. And so I do agree with you there that I think that's the only thing I can like point to that I think will be in the next game. And it's not just a hope, but it's something that I actually expect. I expect it to be, like you said, maybe 10 years, Battlefield 2050 or something. And you can have that slight futuristic, so you can make whatever guns you want, and it doesn't have to be realistic. And you can also use, like we've seen, even just with the ones they've added to Portal, they've put the M16 in there. That's from like the freaking Vietnam War, and that still makes sense in the game. So I definitely, that's the single thing I can point to that I go, yeah, that probably is realistic to expect in the next game, is unless they just drastically want to depart from this, which I don't think they will. I think that's something that's a relatively safe bet.
Yeah, I like you. I think Battlefield fits so well in this setting. It gives them enough freedom to do whatever they want to, but enough containment where it doesn't get out of control. Like, it's not like, oh, hey, we have zero gravity and everyone can see through walls, and time is just a construct, or you can rewind your death, and like, we don't get that, but we can get like, oh, hey, this is a really high-tech guided missile, or this is a super fancy electric car that can blow up people, or this is the next iteration of this, like small improvements to existing technology or weapons or vehicles, but not so much to where it's like, oh, we've got laser blasters coming out of their eyes.
Yeah, as much as we love Star Wars, I don't want a Star Wars type of game for Battlefield where it's just lasers and I don't think. Look, Battlefield 2142. I never played it. Apparently, it's like really solid game and everything. That just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah,
the futuristic Call of Duties, I didn't buy them. I don't.
Stop trying to be Battlefront.
Yeah, it's weird because I don't know why. Because technically, I should like that. Being a Star Wars fan, I should like the sci-fi type of things, but I just don't. I don't know why. Star Wars is like an exclusive thing for me that I like from that type of setting, and I don't enjoy games that are built in that franchise, in that setting, and it could be done well, but I don't know. It hasn't been so far for me.
Yeah,
so I'm very skeptical of it.
Yeah, I think we're slowly seeing what Battlefield is, what it should be, and how it actually works. They've taken some side quests, they've leveled up, and now it's time for them to take on the final boss, which is let's put everything that we've learned and bring it into the modern age. And hopefully the next one isn't like, oh gosh, here we go.
Yeah, we definitely need to correct the course, don't we? Because we're at that if the next one is a bit of the same, then that's what we expect completely. And I think we already do expect it, but like realistically, there's only been 2 in a row that have been pretty rough, and I think 3 in a row makes that the norm, unfortunately. And I think we are still at the point where if the next one comes out and it's really good, we can just count these two games down to like, oh, they tried something different and it didn't work, and they can still make good games. But if they make 3 in a row that suck, like that's not good at all.
Yeah. What is it? There's like a quote around how many points it takes to make a line. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm tentatively hopeful. I'm scared. But I think with Vince Zampella, with Marcus Leto, with Rebecca Kutaz, like I think we're starting to see the Avengers assemble. We're not going to get to Endgame quite yet, or Infinity War, but we're gonna. I personally really love Avengers: Age of Ultron, but I understand it's a bit of a lackluster game or movie. So I think we just got our Avengers Age of Ultron, and we're starting to see what Phase 4 is going to be like, and see what all of the really good stuff is going to be here soon.
Yeah, I think that's the exciting thing, is that I think we're moving into that new era, which, like you said, it is kind of terrifying, but at the same time, I wouldn't say we've hit rock bottom, but like we've been through some years of this game that haven't been great, and it's hard to think that it could get worse. That's the thing for me. I don't know if I'm sure they can if they really tried to, but
don't take that as a challenge, Dice, please.
Yeah. I think it can get worse, but I don't think it will. I think from here it will hopefully start to pick up, because they've got the right people in places. They've had some learnings now from the last 2 games that if they don't put them in, if they don't take those learnings and actually improve on what they did wrong, then the company won't survive after a certain amount of years. Like if they just keep doing that, it's not going to end well. So I do think that, we've kind of, again, I don't want to say rock bottom because I'm certain it could be much worse, but we've kind of hit rock bottom, and now I think the only way is up, and I hope that doesn't come back. Please don't anyone clip that and use that in a few years. But yeah, I'm optimistic. I wouldn't say I'm confident, but I'm optimistic about where the franchise is going, just because of the people they've got in place, and the fact that they do keep launching rough games, but both look, this game is getting better, and it's in a. I think right now it's in a good state. I actually think it's a good shooter now. It's still not quite a good Battlefield because it's just very different, but I play it and I'm addicted at the moment. I'm actually at the point that I haven't had since I don't know when, but I'm like, I've finished all my weekly challenges the other day, and then I thought, okay, I'll just won't really play for the next couple days, get some work done. And yesterday I just couldn't help myself. I had to play Battlefield, so that's something that hasn't happened in a while, and so that's the kind of thing that does give me some sort of optimism that it keeps launching rough, but they keep showing signs that they know how to correct their games, and if they can just get it right from the start in the next game, then we should be in for a good one, because they definitely still know how to do it. It's just that I think the execution hasn't been very good for essentially since 2016, I think.
Yeah, it's been a long while. Yeah, I mean, like you said, and we're talking about this in the Uplink Podcast Discord. I think his name's Mike Putnam. He goes by Putty in the Discord, and was like, yo, played with my son last night, and my new favorite map? It's like, what? Yeah, he said, my son and I played 4 rounds last night. We both kept saying, this is incredible. Imagine if they had more maps. I'd be on all night. And he was like, there's a hope, a thread, but that's something.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. That's what I'm getting at. They keep just showing that tiny little sign that, oh, okay, they haven't fully lost what they are good at. You know what I mean? They keep, which is frustrating, because it's like, just get it right from the start.
You can do it. You've shown you can do it. Just do it.
Yeah. So it's very frustrating, but it is. Yeah, I still have hope there, because, like I said, even with Battlefield 5, that game for the majority of its lifespan for me was just not good. But by the end of it, it felt fun. I was sad when they cancelled it. So they keep showing that they know how to do it. I think their execution has just not been great, and hopefully that's why I want them to take the time with the next one to just make sure it launches good. If it launches well, and then they give it the live service that this game has had, it'll be awesome, because this game has turned around massively, and now the content we're getting is good. If that was happening on top of it launching well, if the foundation was already really good and now we got that live service, this Battlefield would be amazing. So that's all they need to get right, is the launch, in my opinion. They've proven for a decade or more they can do live services awesome, but you got to get it right from the start, or else you're just always on the back foot. So yeah, I hope that Vince at the helm of this kind of doesn't take the lower quality standard and go, yeah, that'll do. I hope he goes, no, this isn't good enough, we're delaying it for a year. Like, I hope that that's what he does, and I think he will, if that's what needs to happen.
If they could start where they end, that would be, and then they could just go on from there. Like, we would have some groundbreaking groundbreaking Battlefield games. Like,
yeah,
if they started where Battlefield 5 ended with Battlefield 5, like, that would have been a fantastic Battlefield game.
Yeah. If they started in that spot, and then think of like we could have got like Normandy DLC, and that game could have been something special. It just launched so poorly that they can't get. I don't care how good your live service is, if you're always playing catch up, you can't get ahead. You can't get it to the point where it's like, wow, this is crazy. Because when you do really good things, it's generally just fixing the issues that you had at the start. Same with this game. It's like every update for the last like 6 months has been really good, but it is also just fixing things that should have been there at launch. So it's like, give them praise for, they have done a lot of stuff that is fixing things, but it is just fixing things. So we can't be that excited about it, because it's just like, okay, finally we've got this base element of the game that's finally here. Really good update, but now we're only 1 step behind where we should be, not 3 steps ahead. So yeah, the launch is the main thing that I'm worried about with the next game. I'm certain that it'll, even if it launches poorly, I'm sure by the end of it it'll be really fun. But I just I don't want to go through that again.
ideally, we would have where they end up be the beginning. And we can have finally a Battlefield game that does not have problems. Like, if only we could, I don't know, have a game that doesn't have a huge controversy at launch, that would be great.
I don't know, man. I think you're asking too much there.
Maybe I am, but I don't think it should be the normal where it's going to launch horribly and eventually be good. Like that should not. Andrew Wilson should not hop on a investor meeting and be like, "Well, they've done this before. They're going to do it again, and eventually it'll be good." That should not be what happens ever.
Yeah. That shows a low standard for me. That shows that they're like, yeah, that'll do. We'll just put it out and we'll fix it later. Like, this is a AAA game. If it was like an indie game, if it was like, what's that? There's like a World War II shooter that's an indie game. I forget the name of it, but that is like, you know the one I'm talking about? I forget the name. It's going to really annoy me. Anyway, that game, like, that's an indie game and that launched not that well. I don't even know if it's fully launched. Hell Let Loose, that's the one. That was in beta for a long time, and like when it's an indie game, you can kind of afford to do that. When it's a AAA game, you can't. You can't do that. So it does show that their standards for launching games is low. I don't think their standard for games in general is low because they always tend to get them good by the end. But it's almost like they just know, okay, well, this is a live service, so we'll just fix it as we go. And yeah, that's not how you do things. I don't know how they don't know that.
Yeah. I think the way that you worded that too is so good. It's a live service game should not be, hey, we'll be able to fix it later. Just ship it. Yeah. It should be, no, we're going to add good things to the game after it ships. Like that should be the order. It's not like, oh, hey, let's send it out and then see what people like and don't like, and then we'll fix it. It should be, no, we're going to start with this. This is what it is. And then we're going to go forward. It needs to be, hey, we're going to launch something good. It's going to be great.
Yeah, that's the thing. The way that they launch these games is there is a thing called, I don't know if it's called early access or open access, but there are games out there that do that where they will straight up say, this game is not finished. We're launching it so that you can play it and like help shape it, but it is not finished and it's free right now. I know like Ark Survival Evolved for a few years that was like just out and it was free. It was not very good at the start, but they blatantly said, like I remember I went to download it and it's the first sentence in the description was like, this game is a work in progress. This isn't the finished product. It's free. We're working on it and help, give us feedback and help shape the game. If they did that, that's fine. Like if you release the next Battlefield early for free and just say, look, it's not done. We're just letting you play it. Then I think that's different. But that's not what they're doing with these games. They're selling them for $100 and saying this is finished and it's just not finished. So if they want to go about it that way, then release it for free and just tell us that it might suck for a year, and that I'd be fine with that, to be completely honest. It's pretty much what we've gone through with this game. Is it launched not very good, and I've still played it the whole time. But if they told me before this launched it was going to suck, then I think I would have like only good things to say about it because I'd be like, oh, it's not done yet, so it's got a good foundation, and we'll see what happens. But
yeah,
that's not what happened. It launched. I paid $120, so it's like, if I'm paying for something like that, I'm expecting it to be done. And that's, I think they've just got that backwards.
What was it, Valhalla? Like, what was the one game? Norse Minecraft game that was early access for a while, got super popular on Twitch.
Is it like this 2D game? Is that the one you're talking about?
No, it's 3D, but it was in early access, and that was exactly what it was. It's like, no, you can play it for free, you can hop on, you're going to help us make the game better, and eventually we'll have a full launch.
I know they also did that with that Grounded game that's like a Xbox exclusive.
Yeah, it's still in early access, right?
Yeah. It's like that. You're like small little people that are in a garden and there's like spiders and stuff. It looks pretty fun, but that's blatantly says early access. This is not finished. It's free. Just play it, have some fun. If you don't like it, you haven't lost anything. Come back when it's fully released. So
it's called Valheim is the one I'm thinking of.
That's a good example actually too, because a lot of hype was around that game when it came out, and it helps. Yeah, if that's what they want to do, I'm not saying I think they should do that, because I don't think that really works for shooters. But man, if they're gonna keep doing this, just release it for free at the start. Like, I don't know. That's what they're doing without the title of it being early access. That is essentially what they've done for the last couple. They're not finished games. They're a work in progress. But I think because it's live service, they think that a live service means almost like live development. Like, we want to develop this as we go, as you play it. And yeah, that's not what a live service is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's such a good way to think of it. It's like, hey guys, there's this new thing where you can have a live service game where you can release and basically get free QA testing. It's like, no, that should not be the focus. If it's either you're going to release a full game, people are going to pay $60 to $70 for it. You're going to support it for X amount of time, and then you're either going to continue to support it or you're going to make the next game. None of this like, oh, hey, we're going to release a crappy game, but all of our players will be able to give us money and we can still get all of the feedback. It's like, no, you make it an early access game. Be upfront with it. Make it a beta. Do all those things, and then you can be able to say, okay, now that we've had this time frame, we're going to go work on all these changes, and we'll be back with the full release.
I also thought of another one that's done that, is that World War III game. That's done the exact same thing. It's launched. I can't remember. I think it hasn't launched. It's been in it's had 10 betas at this point. And yeah, that, I don't know. It's no different than what they've done with 2042, really. Because like I said, I don't have an issue if the game is a bit broken and it's going to get better. I don't have an issue with that personally. I'd prefer it to launch really well, but if I'm going to play it while it's broken, don't make me pay the full price for it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'd be happy to pay $20 to get 2042 in its launch state, and then each big update I have to pay $10 because, to fund it or something. I don't care about that, but don't make me pay the full price for a game that sucks. I think that's where the issue comes in, and that's where I think free games are the way of the future, man. Release the next one for free, monetize it well. It's been proven it can work. And if it has issues, people aren't going to flame it because they just go, well, this sucks, I'm just going to delete it. Yeah. No one's wasted money on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Either have it free or, like you said, that's what I did with PUBG for a while when it was in beta. Yeah. I paid $20 to be in the early access thing. I had a bunch of fun, and then when they made it free to play, I wasn't upset about it. It was, I got to play it early, got to experience it, and then boom. I haven't touched PUBG in a while, but yeah, I think there are so many better ways that they could do it, but I'm excited for the direction that they're going. Let's just hope the next game is, going back to the conversation we had, my ultimate dream Battlefield experience is one that launches a full experience. Launches actually, without a controversy.
That's the best answer, actually. Yeah, I don't care what it is. Give me that futuristic one that I said I don't want. If it launches well, I don't care. Exactly. I'll take whatever you give me. I'll take a Battlefield that's with swords and shields if it launches well. So whatever. Make sure it's good.
Battlefield 800. It's just sticks and rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think with that, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of The Battlefield Show. Let us know your thoughts. What do you think this new announcement means for the Battlefield franchise? what's going to happen. Does DICE get kicked off of Battlefield completely? Let us know your thoughts. You can reach out on Twitter, on Discord. All of that will be in the description. You can watch the podcast on YouTube with gameplay in the background. You can listen to the podcast wherever you find podcasts. And please definitely hit us up and leave us a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Helps us out a ton and helps other people find the show. Love to hear your thoughts. Check out Sammy Boy's channel, Sammy Boy, and Sammy Boy Star Wars for all things Star Wars and Battlefield. And as always, thanks Ethan Clark for the beautiful thumbnail, and we'll see you on the battlefield.